So that was the encoding part. So encoding happens at various levels. But we also have something called retaining of information, storage. Where do we store it is one question. How do we store it? Another question. Where do we store it is a difficult question to answer, because we do not know where in brain we are storing information. But how do we store it is a matter of research. One can do it. Okay, so storage at sensory level happens, and that there is a time limit for sensory storage. For iconic or letter based, it's 0.5 seconds at sensory level. Echoic, which is auditory information, that's for 4 seconds, and haptic is 1 second, the touch. So your information you store at various senses also, at sensory level. Then, so imagine you have information coming in and you have only 5 senses to receive this information. I'm not sure taste and touch, taste and smell, how long do they retain information, but when the information comes to your sensory information, sensory level, you retain it for some time and then you pass it on to working memory or short-term memory. That is the working memory. Last time I remember I said 20 minutes or 20 seconds. So actually it's 20 seconds. Your working memory information storage capacity is 7 plus minus 2 and 20 seconds. So if you don't rehearse it or if you don't put it somewhere, you will have problem. Okay, so somebody asked me about dreams, and you only asked me about body movement, body jerks during the sleep. So this was an interesting question that when we are sleeping, what was the question basically? Ask, yeah, it's fine.
My question was about the hypnagogical paralysis, which is a particular condition in which when you are sleeping, your body is paralyzed, but your brain is awake.
Okay, so all of us have this condition. It's not this paralysis happens only to one person. All of us have this brain mechanism. When we sleep, our brain paralyzes us. So in the sense, because if you think that if you are dreaming of shooting or if you are dreaming of running, if your body is not paralyzed, then you start jumping here and there. And if you dream of slapping someone, anyone who is in front of you will be slapped because your body is acting. So it's a big question that why body paralyzes. So there are some chemicals that brain induces that you don't move during this period when you are sleeping. And that's a very normal case that all of us have. We are paralyzed when we are sleeping. Only when we wake up, we start moving, because the brain has a mechanism to send information or energy information to your body parts. So when you say that move this hand, it looks very simple. Move this hand. But the brain has to send information, how much energy it requires, muscles require blood, oxygen. So it's a huge mechanism which is working at this very simple level. So brain has to do a lot of stuff. And when you are sleeping, the brain stops these motor signals which are like ordering you to move your hands. But in some cases, you will see that you are dreaming that you are falling and suddenly you wake up. This is again a mechanism, sometimes it happens. Now this was one part, but also while dreaming, you also have a lot of information. If you think that the entire picture of this, schema, which is linear. You have sensory memory. Think here there is a senses. You have a lot of 5 senses, and then there is a world. Your information comes, you receive it, you put it in your sensory memory for some time, and then put it in your working memory. All that is there in working memory will not go to your long-term memory. And all that is there in your working memory will not go to your, all that is there in sensory memory will not go to your working memory. So you shed information, something which is not required. You go from here to main gate, you see 100 faces. You don't remember them. The point is that information is shed. And this information, but you don't see your brain shedding information, throwing information out. Where does all this information go? It remains somewhere, and one theory suggests that dreaming is based on these lost or unnecessary information. That's why your dreams are weird. Half face of lion, half face of body. How? It's all because your brain is trying to organize the information that is hanging somewhere. And that unnecessary or what you call lost information is arranged. And if it is not there, it just goes on. Many people claim, and they also say that there is something called false memory. I don't know if any one of you have seen cases where you have a memory of something which never happened with you. Or you must have heard it from someone which somehow you made a connection and you think that, yes, I was the one who had this information. There is a concept called deja vu. You know deja vu. When I came here first time in the class, I did not have deja vu. But many people believe that some incident happens and they say, oh, as if this has happened with me. And all of this is connected at multiple layers, that you have got the information from someone, some information was hanging, and then when you see it, you somehow make a connection, you make a relation. So dreaming information also comes from your all shedded information, and that has to be organized in your long-term memory. So your brain works at night, puts information at places, categorizes them properly. And if the categorization happens wrongly, then you will have false memory, because you will remember it happened with you, whereas this has not happened with you. George Miller was one who came up with this idea of chunking, 7 plus minus 2 letters capacity. So it's also called Miller's magical number, 7 plus minus 2. The other day, we remembered somebody's number, right? Who gave the number? You gave the number. So, if I tried remembering my number. Last time I did not remember my number. This time I remember. So, my number is, if you want to call me. But my number is 327 2850 249. Now, see the pattern. How I have remembered is 3, 4 and 3. So, because since this is, many people, iPhone also has a different pattern. It's 2, 4, 4. So, everything has a chunking pattern. You try to remember things in chunks. And it's a very normal phenomena, because you cannot remember more than 7 plus minus 2. So, some way you organize. People will have different ways of remembering. 2, 2, 2, 2, because that also becomes 5. You can have 4, 4, 2. Anyways, but chunking happens to remember things. And duration is 20 seconds. If you don't rehearse it, if you don't do other methods, you will lose the information. and you will only remember it for 20 seconds. Now comes the long-term memory. So we have seen sensory information, sensory memory, which has a limit. Audio, vision and tactile has limits. Working memory has a limit. That's why its RAM also is, iPhones these days come with 2 GB RAM. Laptops are 2, 4, 16, 8. Long-term memory for human beings is unlimited. We remember everything, every possible thing as long as we can remember. And the reason is that we have billions of neurons. And every neuron, when it connects, make a connection, it's a memory. And that's how we remember. So it's unlimited information that we can remember. So a chart. LTM is long-term memory. This is an average. You can take for audio, visual and haptic differently. 0.25 seconds, 20 seconds and years. It's unlimited memory that we have. So how the memory is stored, where the memory is stored is a big question, we don't know yet. But many people have done a lot of studies. One video also we saw that when the new connection happens, when you get new information, your neurons get connected. Some kind of connection is made. And this was in 1982, they did one experiment with, what is the, aplysia. And this was their picture, actually, that how synaptic changes happen. You can just look at it. Okay, now some interesting facts. Stress hormones and memory. Heightened emotions make for stronger memories. Maybe when you look at a movie or when you hear the sound of music, or when you hear music or song, you just don't make syntactic or phonemic or semantic association. You also make what association? Emotional association. So when you have an emotional association, you think in terms of connections. More context you give, you are making longer and broader connections. And if you have broader connections, so one thing can trigger another one. And that's how the memory connections happen. If you have emotional connection also, then every time you hear one word, you will get the emotional connection. We remember the story of a man who said that his parents were imposters because he did not remember, he had this emotional connection thing cut. So that's why he remembered his parents, but emotional connection was not there. During stress, so if you study before exam, if you are studying in immense stress, you tend to remember more. But then, yes, you forget next time. After the exam is over, everything is gone. When you look at the question paper after 2-3 days, you will say, did I write any of these? Because you remembered them just a day before the exam, and that was the stressful time. You remembered it for very specific purpose, and then you forgot it. Why did you forget it? Can you tell me now? That is one reason. But that's an interesting thing. You don't need that information anymore. So, you need it for long term, because why are you studying then? Okay, but yeah, for the just immediate we don't need. What could be other reason? You don't rehearse it. Because if you rehearse it, you will remember it. If you are studying for your exam, you have no intention of rehearsing it. So you don't remember it. You simply forget it.
No, I don't know if I'm going off topic or not, but I wanted to know about, I don't know the word in English if it's the same. We have something which is called déjà vu.
Yeah.
So it's like when you feel that you already lived a situation. And how does it happen? I mean, it's something that it's linked with our memory, or?
Yeah, so that's what I discussed, that deja vu happens because
you don't remember something, but you removed something and then you remember?
Yeah, so I had a special slide for it.
Okay. I wasn't there probably. Sorry.
Huh? So there are multiple explanations for this. One is that somebody else's experience, it's also based on your false memory, that it triggers that you have seen this. Actually, deja vu is a very interesting case which suggests the theory of what I said. Which theory did I mention? Bookkeeping theory of memory, and the other one was connectionist theory. So connectionist theory suggests that you don't remember the content, what you remember the connections. So deja vu also suggests that you have a similar structure of the events happening now, but the content you do not remember. You have not remembered the content. So if the structure repeats, you fill in the context based on present information. So that's why you feel that, oh, this has happened with me. Whereas the content is basically something else that you remember. So it's not what you only remembered is the structure. If the same structure happens, same events are happening, then you think that, okay, this has happened because the content is filled by you now. And that's the connectionist theory which suggests that deja vu can be explained. Many people believe that deja vu has, previous life, that same thing has happened in my previous life. But there is a logical problem with this thing. Huh? Can you say what is the logical problem with deja vu being explained in terms of my previous life? Any explanation that comes to your mind. I say that this explanation is wrong. You think that it's okay to have this explanation in terms of previous life? So you said persons and moment.
That it's possible that this situation happened years ago with the same people in the same time.
So that's illogical? Yes.
Or with the same technology.
Exactly. So, or what is your explanation?
No, I don't know. I don't know if a previous life can exist, okay. But I like to believe in this. I don't know why.
Yeah. So the thing is that, see, it's statistically very improbable that suppose you are, say, X age. 20 years, suppose. And then, so you were born 20 years back. And when did you die last year? At least 20 years you lived in your previous life also. So 40 years. So 40 years, things remained same. All of us were born exactly the same way. It's statistically very improbable that everything remains. Even chairs and things have not gone for maintenance, then university will have tough time. Things have to change. So, yeah, it's easy to give an explanation in terms of previous life, and it's soothing, helps us psychologically, but there can be an explanation at scientific level also. And one explanation is that we remember only the event structure. And when the same or similar structure happens, we fill in the content with the present information. This, actually, I'm also going a little away from this. I don't know if you have heard the name of this man called Vivekananda. Vivekananda. Now, Vivekananda was an Indian saint in 1900 only. so very recently. And he is known in India because he went to Chicago for World Religion Congress, and then he called everyone my brothers and sisters. Anyways. And he believed in this particular part, that there is a previous birth and then this birth and next birth also will have. I don't know how it happens in different religions. I guess in Christianity you are born only once. There is no second life. You wait for the judgment day. I guess same is with Islam, and same is with Judaism, I believe. But with Hinduism, Buddhism, there is a concept of soul which takes birth. So we say that number of birth is equal to number of species available on this earth. So your cycle is, you have to take birth as every species. So today, this life I have got as a human being. Next life I may be a mosquito. And then after that I may be a fly or a cow. So I have to be born as an amoeba also. That's the idea. So, but the thing is that if you remember all of this information, and in religious matter, they say that the information storage is not in the brain. All religions believe in this. The knowledge goes to your soul. So knowledge is the property of soul. And so if the soul has the property called knowledge, if I am born as a human being and I die, I am born as a mosquito, then I should have all knowledge of human life in the mosquito life also, because the knowledge belongs to soul. But you know, this, I don't know, somehow my views are very radical, but Hinduism also adds another caveat. Caveat is a small thing that you add. You say, it's fine, you are born as every possible species, but human life you are born 7 times. The reason, nobody knows. Why 7 times? Because 7 is a good number. You have 7 hells, you have 7 things. In most of the religions, 7 is a interesting number. So 7 times. So I am born with all the information of my previous human life in this birth. So one person asked this Vivekananda that why don't you remember everything that happened in your last birth? And the answer he gave was very scientific actually, very interesting. And you can relate it with cognitive science. But he gave it in terms of, from religion point of view, but you can see it from scientific point of view also. He says that try to remember what you did last day, same time, or yesterday, same time. Where were you? What were you doing? So the person said, yeah, I was in my lunch room and I was eating lunch. Okay. A week back, what were you doing at the same time? He said, I was again having lunch in my office. A month back, I was doing the same thing. 10 years back, he had problem. I don't remember, but try remembering. So he thought, okay, 10 years, what I was doing 10 years back. So he was in school and he has been eating lunch every time, every day, same time. So he said, yes, I was having lunch in my school. Okay. So he went back and said that after some time, what happens is that you don't remember the details. What you remember is the impression. You don't remember. If I ask you, what did you eat 10 years back in your school? You won't remember it. But you remembered the impression of an action that was happening. So again, it's an hierarchy thing that is happening there. So details are lost. What you remember only is the structure. I was having lunch in my school and all those things, and now since you remember what you are doing, you keep filling information. So it's an interesting thing. But the question of last birth, his answer was that becomes there is a word in Sanskrit called sanskar. Sanskar it's very difficult to translate it into English, but the idea is that, some people are good and some people are bad. And how do you know it? We just know that this man, I don't like him. Some people, I like it. And that thing is what he says, that sanskar. It's very difficult to define, but it's the aura or the thing that you are born with. But anyways, it's a religious level. Let's not get into that. But the point I was trying to make was that what you remember is only the structures of events, and with your present information, you fill in the content, and that's where the deja vu also comes into play.